If you want the freedom to work from anywhere in the world, then let's discuss how you can build a personal brand that will help you do that. Grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. Years on from the pandemic, lockdowns, and working from home becoming the new norm, this desire to work remotely doesn't seem to be going anywhere. There was research out of the US, for example, that showed that 35% of people who can do their job remotely opt to do so. Now, of course, intuitively, this would make sense to a lot of people because the time that you spend in your commute, you can then spend on other things. And it's estimated that worldwide, the average commute is 72 minutes a day. That is 72 precious minutes that could be spent on other things to enhance your quality of life. So for you, it might be that you have the opportunity to exercise more. Maybe you spend more time making healthier choices for your lifestyle or for your diet, your food preparation, for example. Maybe you spend more time working on a side hustle or a second job that allows you to also increase your quality of life or to do other things that you also have an interest in or are passionate about. And even outside of your normal commute times, when you take your lunch breaks, for example, this might give you a chance to maybe do things that you wouldn't ordinarily have the opportunity to do if you were going to your workplace. Maybe this is an opportunity again to exercise, to prepare healthier lunch options, or to do other things that you're interested in that time. So it's no wonder that there is now this increasing desire to work from home. We've experienced a world of working remotely and we now know what is possible. I, for example, with the exception of a few face-to-face speaking engagements, work 100% from home, and I have clients across all of Australia. And even when I travel, I have the opportunity to continue to work on things that are benefiting my business while I am able to enjoy the lifestyle of doing something that I'm really passionate about traveling and seeing the world without actually having to be confined to the restrictions of a 9-to-5. And this idea is something that has been brewing with a lot of people for a long time now. It's something that Tim Ferriss discusses in his book, The 4-Hour Work Week. He talks about what he defines as the new rich, and he says that they are defined by one key characteristic, and that is unrestricted mobility. He says, "The guard is changing. Being bound to one place will be the new defining feature of the middle class. The new rich are defined by a more elusive power than simple cash, unrestricted mobility." So let's talk about some of the ways that you can build a personal brand that will allow you to work from anywhere. My tip number one to help you to build a personal brand that can work from anywhere is to optimize your personal brand's online skills. It is one thing to want to work from anywhere, but it's another thing to actually build a personal brand where people are actually paying you for the skills that you have. So do a bit of an audit of the skills that you currently have, your work history, your unique value proposition, and understand the skills that you have to offer a marketplace that could potentially be something that you can do remotely. Now, this might mean really honing in on a particular skill or a skill set that you already have in the big picture of the work that you currently do and focusing in on those particular things in a much more amplified way. Or it could mean having to develop entirely new skill sets. For my own remote work, I focus on coaching, consulting, speaking, and writing. Outside of that work, I also have a YouTube channel, a podcast, a blog, and I actively post on LinkedIn as well. I try and give away as much free value as I can on those channels because I know that by posting more videos, by sharing more articles and blogs, I am developing the skills that I need to benefit the other areas of my work as as well. I'm developing writing skills with every blog that I post. I'm developing speaking skills with every video and podcast that I produce. So while there might also be opportunities to monetize those aspects of my personal brand in the future, further to the direct benefits that I already see in that space, regardless, I am still focused on developing a skill set that is going to translate into strengths for my online personal brand. And this leads nicely into tip number 2, which is to digitize your personal brand. In the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, he focuses on you building your online personal brand while you wait for the opportunity that the world has to offer you. And this might not necessarily be immediate, but in the meantime, you have built a personal brand that will align with a problem that you might be able to assist with when the relevant people discover that it is something that they need help with. He says, you are waiting for your moment when something emerges in the world. They need a skill set and you're uniquely qualified. You build your brand in the meantime on Twitter, on YouTube, and by giving away free work. You make a name for yourself and you take some risks in the process. When it is time to move on the opportunity, you can do so with leverage, the maximum leverage possible. My tip number 3 is to monetize your personal brand. Now, some of the more common ways that you would do this would be to aim to have a monetized YouTube channel, podcast, a blog that you can have advertising on. You might have paid subscriptions to your newsletter, or you might have content behind a paywall, or you might offer subscription opportunities on Medium or Substack, for example. But you can also use that content to monetize your personal brand in other ways. And if you do this strategically, you may also be able to generate a more premium price compared to what some of those other channels would require of you. One of the ways that I do this is that I use the content that I have on my blog, my YouTube channel, and my podcast to showcase my expertise. And I find that that is what helps me to generate clients in coaching, consulting, speaking, and in writing. It gives me that opportunity to showcase my skills, and it creates what I've talked about before as being a portfolio of proof for your personal brand. It means that when people have a problem in a particular space that they might want to solve, they can connect with your personal brand and see what it is that you have to offer in that space. Then the process of actually converting that person into being a paid client is actually made a lot easier because they've already seen so much of your work. They already feel like they have a connection to you. They've already then had the chance to connect with your personality, to understand how you write, how you speak, maybe even had a look into some of the behind the scenes work that goes into the professional personal brand that you have developed. So they not only understand your skill set on a surface level, but they understand all of that work and mindset and maybe behind the scenes routines that go into the expertise that you have to offer and how that is differentiated from the rest of the marketplace. And if you are able to potentially focus on how you convert your online digital brand into more premium services, then it may actually give you the opportunity to condense your periods of work into different times of the year. So instead of being an always on brand that is available for the entire year and trading your time for money, you can instead focus on peak periods of the year. You can focus in on the times that you know you are going to earn the most income, and then maybe actually in those other periods of the year actually take time off. So you can then travel and not actually have to work at all. You can completely switch off during that time. Or maybe if you are traveling, you can focus on not so much those activities that really require your intense focus and your time, but maybe it's more the activities that you might find more fun to do. Maybe you like the process of creating content and that's something that you do while you travel, but it's not a requirement to have your income be dependent on those particular periods. This leads nicely into tip number 4, which is to automate everything that you can for your personal brand. So when I'm talking about if you want to travel, for example, while your personal brand is still working for you, this is an opportunity to think about how you share content even during those times without actually having to be completely switched on during that time. So you can have your personal brand work for you in the background. You can be releasing content that is going to generate customers and clients for you for when you are back on the job and when you've clocked back into working. Your personal brand has already done that hard work for you. So when you think about the digital platforms that you use or that you are planning to use, really get to know all of the features that they have available. What is actually available to you to be able to automate elements of your personal brand? This is about working more effectively rather than working efficiently. What can you work smartly on to make the process of having this always on online brand actually be really sustainable in the long term? So this is something that reminds me of a concept in the financial space about trying to make money while you sleep. So not always having your time attached to how you earn money. You're not always trading your time for money, but you have investments that are working for you in the background. While you literally don't need to be, they are still earning you money. So I like to think of your online personal brand as being that opportunity. While you are sleeping, resting, relaxing, traveling, whatever it is, your articles are working for you. Your videos are working for you. Your podcasts are working for you. The portfolio of proof that you are building and continuing to add to is doing a lot of the hard work for your personal brand, even when you might not be. So this is an opportunity to think about the long-term gains of the work that you put into things that may at the time seem like they are really laborious and that they don't seem to have any immediate return for you financially. And understanding that it is a long game that is going to contribute to the value of your professional personal brand going forward. Tip number 5 for building a personal brand that can work from anywhere is to sacrifice and say no. Deciding that you want to have a personal brand that can work remotely is maybe the easier part. The harder part is actually committing to that choice, because it means that you have to make decisions that align entirely with that goal. For example, unless you're working for an organization that is completely aligned to you working 100% remote, then you may have to sacrifice that traditional 9 to 5 goal that you might have had because it doesn't align with what organizations, or maybe the ones that you used to want to work for, are actually requiring of their employees. Having a traditional 9 to 5 can be really tempting. It will often come with a salary that is going to make your life a lot easier than what it might be if you are working for yourself and constantly having to generate your own source of income through your personal brand, through your skills, through your expertise, without it actually being attached to another organization that you are an employee of. As someone who worked in the traditional corporate space for over a decade, I understand that life can be a lot easier when you have that paycheck that comes through every single week or fortnight, however it is that you currently get paid. It becomes a lot more complicated, at least to begin with, when you are doing that for yourself. But sometimes to be able to achieve the long-term goal that you want for yourself, or to be able to achieve something like working remotely, if that is really important to you, then you need to sacrifice in other areas. And I like to think that this is just a short-term sacrifice whenever you have to do this, because eventually, if you can align your lifestyle with your long-term goals, then those short-term sacrifices aren't going to seem as much of a big deal still when it comes to the lifestyle that it can afford you in the future and the future self that you are working for when it comes to your personal brand goals. And I know a lot of people now also like the idea of a hybrid working arrangement, and I do think that this is a really interesting positive initiative that workplaces are adopting and giving people more flexibility to both work from home and work in an office, because a lot of people actually do love the option to do both. They love to work in an office and have that social interaction, but then also like the time that they can work remotely. But when you are considering if hybrid work could be something that would satisfy you, then just consider that, for example, those hybrid working relationships, while they might have a lot of benefits, still require you to have some sort of physical presence. And so you just need to assess for yourself if this is something that you would be happy to do, or if in the long term you would prefer to actually be 100% remote. Because whenever it does come to those working relationships and having those hybrid opportunities, then you are still an employee of that organization. You still have all of the expectations that they would have. That arrangement may potentially change. There may be more desire to have people come back into work. You might find that you prefer more of those work from home days, and it's just something to keep in mind. Again, the salary that is attached to those traditional 9-to-5 roles does come with strings. It comes with expectations, and so it should, because people are paying you to do a particular job. So it really is up to you to decide how you want to be working going forward and how you are actually going to create a life that supports that goal. So again, this might mean having to really make decisions that align entirely with that choice. I, for example, have coaching clients that are in even the same state that I am in Australia, but I still conduct my service online because it aligns with my business model of being an online business only, and it allows me to also deliver a more standardized process across all of my clients despite where they're actually located. I also choose to not have an office and to work from home because I don't want any bricks and mortar elements of my business at all. Have you ever had, for example, the interaction with an entrepreneur who talks about when they are traveling, feeling potentially frustrated by the way that their business operates when they aren't actually present in the business, and they feel like it doesn't actually work as best as it can unless they are actually there? So just keep in mind that having that physical presence will attach you to having to always operate that physical presence as well, unless you decide to shut it down during particular times of the year. But having said that, I do think that the best leaders create businesses and teams that can work their best even when they're not actually working themselves. And this leads nicely into tip number 6, which is to build systems. Systems help you to standardize your process and the quality of the work that you offer across different customers and across different team members. And this is one of the key points that Michael E. Gerber makes in his book, The E-Myth Revisited. He talks about not working in your business, but working on your business. So take a McDonald's, for example, and how many processes are involved in a McDonald's business that allow it to standardize a lot of its practices across the entire world. We know that we can receive a certain level of service because those things have been built into the way that the system operates. And this goes back again to being a leader who is not a micromanager, but can actually establish teams with the mindset of making themselves redundant. So the business isn't actually dependent on them having to do the work, but the business is dependent on there being systems and processes in place that maintain the same quality that the owner of the business would expect. Now, maybe you don't have a business per se and you more want to be selling your services, as we talked about earlier. but still keep this mentality of working on your business, not in your business, in mind. Through everything that you set up, no matter what it is, ask yourself how this contributes to a system that you are creating for your business. Where does that particular task or that goal or that activity that you have in mind for your business sit in the big picture of your business, of your professional personal brand? How is it that it contributes to the system that you are trying to create that in the long term is going to help you to achieve those personal professional brand goals that you have? My tip number 7 is to build digital relationships. There are a lot of leaders, business owners, managers, and employees out there who are really adamant about people being in the workplace, and that is absolutely fine. Everyone has their own preferences. But keep in mind that not everyone actually feels that way. So when you decide that you want to have a personal professional brand that can work entirely remote, then you have to put in a little bit more effort with finding who those people are. And these might be businesses or people that maybe aren't as mainstream as what you have so far been used to in your career. So you do have to just put in that little bit of extra effort to find them. This might be, for example, as simple as when you are searching for a job online, making sure that you have all the relevant filters optimized for remote work, and even typing into your searches references to 100% remote, for example, and trying a few other things in that space just to make sure that you're actually getting the results that will align with the professional goals that you have, that you're actually finding your people who appreciate people that work remotely, that maybe don't have the mindset of managers and bosses who potentially always want to be overseeing what you're doing, or think that unless you are working in the office right under their supervision that you're not actually doing work, because not everyone feels that way. There are people who feel exactly the way that you might be feeling right now, who trust people to work on the other side of the country or the other side of the globe and still be able to achieve their job. So spend some time trying to find who those people are. These might be people that you can work for, they might be people that you can partner with, they might even be your potential clients. For example, if you are building an online professional personal brand, then you are going to start to attract people that feel aligned to that. They aren't necessarily the people who want to be sitting with you in an office or in a cafe face to face. They just want to find the best person for the job and to be able to log into meetings or to be able to chat with you via email. Similar to bosses having a certain mentality sometimes, so can people who are actually looking to engage with services. Some people are adamant that they only want that face-to-face connection. Other people want to be able to quickly switch on to a meeting in their own time. So building digital relationships is just a matter of finding your people. Now, tip number 8 is to think global. One of the best parts about building a personal brand that can work from anywhere is that you aren't limited to your current location or the boundaries of wherever you are. You can start to think about the potential that your professional personal brand has on a global scale. This was one of my favorite takeaways from Grant Cardone's book, The 10X Rule. He really focused on this philosophy of creating instead of copying. But he said if you were ever to imitate anyone or to emulate anyone or to look up to anyone, to try and focus on the biggest players in your industry on the world stage. So not just thinking about your local area, maybe your local contacts and who you're ordinarily used to engaging with, but thinking on that biggest scale and looking at what they are doing. And when it comes to you building a professional personal brand that can work from anywhere, this is an opportunity to break down those boundaries and to actually think on that level, knowing that if that personal brand on the other side of the world, for example, was able to somehow establish a connection with you, then there is no reason why you can't do the same thing. So when it comes to you building a personal brand that can help you work from anywhere, start to think global instead of just local. If you want to learn more about how you can reinvent your online personal brand so you can work from anywhere, then check out my previous episode on this topic. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.